Happy Friday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at the Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. So today is Friday, TGIF, right? And it is January 25th, 2019. This is episode 237 of the Daily Dope. So welcome aboard. Tonight, I am actually going to do a bit of a how to play as well as review the second edition of Shadowrift from my friends over at Starling Games. It is a fantasy deck building game. I move some of this stuff out of the way. I've got things all over the place again tonight, so let me kind of rearrange some stuff here. I had to mess around with the lighting a little bit because this is a collectible deck building game, a lot of cards. So you'll see that the actual lighting will be a bit dimmer when we take a look at the game because there's a board to Shadowrift that the cards all kind of lay out on, and I was getting tons and tons of glare off of some of the lighting, so had to adjust some of the lighting a little bit, so it's a little dimmer today than it usually is. Anyway, do want to point out, if this is the first time you've popped in, this is a very, very casual show. I just sit and kind of chat about tabletop gaming, do some unboxings, do some reviews. Every once in a while I pontificate. I do ramble a bit, but I pontificate on occasion. And it is live. It is a live stream. So I know a vast majority of people watch the show after the fact, but if you happen to be watching live tonight, feel free to say hello. If you've got a question, feel free to ask. Maybe if there's something about Shadowrift 2nd Edition you'd like to know, by all means, fire away. So also, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you catch a few of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you like them, by all means, please subscribe, ring the little bell, and then, of course, you'll get notified not only when there's a new video, but when the stream goes live. So if you're sitting around one evening and don't have much cooking, and you're a subscriber and you see a little notification, pop on in. Watch live. Hey, John Vogel's popping in, saying hello because you told me to. I don't have that kind of power, John. Good to have you popping in tonight. So, hey, happy Friday to you, John. So, as you can see, there is chat. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I kind of keep some of the stranger commenters at bay. But I do respond. So, I don't have news tonight. Today was very hectic. I'd almost considered not doing a show, but I tried not to do that. But went to my cardiovascular rehab today. It is ungodly cold in the Chicagoland area today. So, and then we were actually getting hit by some snow. Well, I was coming down here to get ready for the show today, but it was so cold. We were, this morning, I want to say it was -2 in the garage. So we're not talking wind chill and things like that when you're in the garage. So went to cardiovascular rehab, and then my car wouldn't start. So I had to mess around with that for quite a while. Finally got it to start, but see, my car's from Arizona, so it's not the battery. It's for some reason, I think it's like the electrical system. If it gets too cold, it just doesn't crank. It's weird. But then if I pop the hood, this is the weirdest thing, right? If I pop the hood and I have an old blanket in the trunk, I throw it on there, after a while, it'll actually start once I take the blanket right off, right? It's the weirdest thing. It's almost like this car is sort of like, oh, I'm too fussy. I don't like it when it gets real cold. Anywho, so no news tonight. I'm going to actually kind of jump into a how to play as well as a review of the second edition of Shadowrift in just a moment. But first, I do want to point out, if you have been watching the Daily Dope, you do know that I am a huge proponent of Lil Bub's Big Fund at the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, otherwise known as the ASPCA. One thing I do want to point out, Lil Bub's Big Fund, 100% of all monies that are raised for this fund are presented as grants to organizations which care for special needs animals as they are awaiting adoption and hopefully going to their forever homes. So I have pointed out in the past that any profits, anything above and beyond our operating costs for the gaminggang.com as well as the Daily Dope, which isn't a whole lot, actually is being donated to Lil Bub's Big Fund at the ASPCA. And on the 1st of February, I will reveal my first auction I'm going to do. I'm going to auction off one of my war games. I'm going to try to do a couple, maybe 2-3 auctions a month. And anything outside of the cost for me to send it out, the shipping cost, is going to get donated as well. And I've said it time and time again so far for the past couple of weeks. When I started doing this in 2010, it wasn't like I did it to get rich, to make money or anything like that. I haven't, which is okay. But personally, I think, donating some money towards animals in need is cooler than, making sure that I've got enough beer in the fridge or some nonsense like that, right? So I've got Lil Whizbub right here, which is from the Lil Bub store at lilbub.com. And, as soon as I saw the little wizard costume, I had to pick it up. So definitely check out the fun. Definitely check out Lil Bub, because Lil Bub and the dude and I believe Dudette, Lil Bub's owners, they've raised over $500,000 for special needs animals. So that is very, very cool, because Lil Bub actually has a lot of genetic challenges that she has tackled very nicely. All right, so anywho, moving right along. What's coming up on next week's shows? So I've plotted out a couple of things. I'm still up in the air on some stuff. So on Monday's show, I am going to review Paper Tales, which is from my friends over at Stronghold Games. So I will be reviewing, this is the core game. I know there's an expansion out. I do not have that, so I'm going to do the core game. Tuesday, I will probably have an interview with my pal Mark H. Walker of Flying Pig Games and Tiny Battle Publishing fame. So that will take up probably most of Tuesday. There will be news next week. I know I've been really light on the news so far this week because it's been very, very hectic. But there will be news next week. So on Tuesday's show, I will be doing that. On Wednesday's show, not sure. It'll be Wargame related because it's Wargame Wednesdays, just like on Thursday's show will be an RPG. But I think I'm actually going to be tackling a PDF, which I do from time to time. Then on Friday's show, I am going to be reviewing The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. Finally gonna get the review out for that. It took a while for us to play this 3 times. Anyway, and it is from the fine folks over at USAopoly as well as Mondo Ray Gun. So John said, I told him to do something. Hey, John, be sure to tune in next week. Because I told you to. Okay, so Shadowrift, this second edition is from Starling Games. I believe it was under Game Salute, and I don't think it was Starling Games originally. I think it shifted over to Starling Games for the second edition. It's designed by Jeremy Anderson with artwork provided by a slew of people, and I apologize for the folks. I will get their names mispronounced. I like that Judd's like, okay, I'll watch next week. Will do. Thanks, John. Anyway, artwork is provided by Engar Adarasa, Kirsten Brown, Colin Epstein, Ross Grams, Tomas Jedruzik, Nicholas K., Tom Kelly, Andy Kluth, Philip, I think it's Philippe X. Liu, Jose Munoz, Terry Pavlet, Ellen Pedersen, Levente Ruckert, Sabine Van Appeldorn, and Thomas Williams. Whew, man, that's a lot of artists. The game is for 1 to 6 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 45 minutes to 2 hours, and it normally does carry an MSRP of $75. Here's the strange thing, though. Starling Games website shows that you can get it for $75. Obviously enough, they sent me a review copy. I've had a tough time finding it through other retailers. Now I've seen it. I think it popped up on Amazon. I'm not sure if it was the second edition. So at this point in time, you might only be able to get Shadowrift through Starling Games website. I'm not positive. So, all right, let's move on over to the other camera. As I mentioned, I had to let's move the mic over a little bit. Probably bumped it too. So this has a rather large play area, rather large board here. So we're going to kind of tour around the board. Yes, I know it is the camera is zoomed way out. And in fact, I had the camera set up so I can adjust the height of the camera, especially when I got to try to squeeze in pretty much the entire table here. At least the entire table width, right? So, in fact, a little bit of the board is being cut off down at the bottom, but we can see most of it. Anyway, in fact, you know what I'll do? I'll just see if I can squeeze this up a touch. There we go. Because we don't need to necessarily see right above where it says monster attack area, because there's really nothing there. But anyway, I will take a tour around the board a little bit, kind of explain the premise of the game, and then I will kind of zoom in and we'll take a better look at some of the cards in that, because I'm sure from this distance, you can't really make out a lot of detail on the cards. Probably can't even tell what the titles of the cards are. So, the main gist of the game is it is a cooperative deck building game where the players are fighting off monsters, basically invading and trying to destroy this town. Cool thing about this is you've got a series of different monsters to choose from. So I will kind of explain these. These are the randomizer cards for them. So I will show these off when we zoom in a little bit. So I like that. And each of the monster factions have about 20 cards that for the monsters that are coming in. So we've got a monster deck here, and you'll see that we have the first card in the monster deck is revealed. And the reason why is because we need to see what the cost is to bring the monster into play, into the attack area. Where if the monsters don't have enough power, and it's a powerful monster, they have to wait until they gain enough power to actually enter play. We have the town. The town is down here, and this is pretty interesting because the town actually will recycle every turn. So every turn, we're going to have new citizens, new villagers in the town. Now, there are some bad folks who are visitors, who are travelers, I should say, that could enter the town, and they're a pain for us. They do not help us. In fact, one of the ways that you can lose playing this game, it's like a lot of games, right? There's more ways for you to lose than there are to win. But one of the ways that you lose is if on any turn you don't have any villagers in the village. You only have corpses and these like evil travelers. So that is one of the ways that you lose the game. So, I guess I should mention another way you can lose the game is some of the monsters, some of the big bads, have an annihilation action that they can perform, which basically kind of wipes everything out. So that's another way that you can lose the game. So you don't want that to happen. So, so we have the monster deck here. We've got the different monster attack areas. Where, if you are familiar with a variety of different deck building games, one that pops immediately to mind are the Legacy series from, or I should say, Legendary series. Why did I say Legacy? The Legendary series from Upper Deck. So they've got like Legendary Marvel. They've got Aliens. Actually, we really like Aliens, so I'll actually have a little comparison to that in a bit too. So it's one of these where you've got a monster here, you got another monster come out. Well, it's going to push that monster here. Well, another one comes out, it pushes the other monster here. If you have not killed these monsters off, that is. And then eventually the monsters can get over to this power area where you don't want them to go. And then after that, they leave town. And they will leave town. But once again, you want, what you're trying to do is you're trying to kill the monsters before they get to really create havoc, and it can become rather tough. I do want to point out that this is not necessarily a super easy game to win, and I like that. I like challenges as well. Okay, so we've got the monster area up here. Up just below that, it's just basically right on the board telling you, okay, so this is what you do every turn. Right, you're going to draw your cards, you're going to refresh the town, you're going to refresh the travelers, the monsters get to act, the monsters gain power, we add monsters, then finally the heroes get to act, we are the heroes, and then we have the cleanup. Also here we see there's a track, goes up to 10 plus actually, and this is the monster power points. So these are the points that the monsters actually spend to bring monsters out onto the attack area. So then again, once again, we've got the travelers. So these travelers here can be purchased and added to the town. I do have to point out that there's some baddies in here too. So if the baddies pop up, then unless you're able to get rid of them, they're actually going to enter the town discard. So, and you can tell that they're baddies because they're red. As opposed to this gray, they are red. So, the travelers tend to be the good citizens tend to be pretty cool. So they're going to cost you in order to add them to the town. One thing I will point out is if as the game plays on, if you're having an issue where you've lost a lot of your citizens, a lot of your villagers, it makes sense to start devoting some funds, some resources to getting the travelers into your town. Then here we've got the various walls. There are 8 wall cards, and I will show them off in more detail, but there's 2 of each. So there's 4 different kinds of walls that if you have all 8 walls in place, you will win the game because you've basically made sure that the town is fortified enough that these monsters cannot tear it down. We have corpse cards. Anytime one of the villagers is killed, a corpse card will be added into your town discard. The villager that is killed will actually go onto the bottom of the traveler deck, so it's possible for you to get that villager or that kind of villager back in the future. But as I mentioned, one of the aspects of how you can lose the game is if you don't have any live citizens here. As I mentioned, there are different monster groups or different monster factions you can use. One of the factions is the necromancer, so they can actually turn corpses into zombies. So one aspect that I like is all the various different monster factions play a little bit differently. So it's not just, because there are some kind of fantasy card games out there, and there are quite a lot of deck builders out there, but there are some where the monsters just seem kind of the same. Give you an example, and I actually like the game from AEG, but Nightfall was kind of like that, where it was sort of like, yeah, okay, the vamps and the werewolves, they don't really seem super different. And of course, they'd be mixed into the same game. Whereas this, I've actually got set up for what is recommended in the rules. This is the Fire Dragon faction. So moving right along, then we've got heroism cards, where there are 5 heroism cards for each player. So I just got this kind of set up to kind of show you a little bit like a 2-player game. We have might cards, which each of the players is going to actually start with 2 might cards in their deck. Strike cards. Oh, I'm sorry. I should say strike cards. The players have 2 strike cards, not 2 might cards. Duh. They have 2 strike cards in their deck. And then we've got seal spells. So these are always in play. We've got stacks of wound cards, because when you attack monsters, if you have to enter melee with them, you're going to automatically gain a wound unless you've got a card that's going to prevent that wound. And as in most deck builders that have where you're like supposed to be a hero and things like that, fantasy kind of stuff, or even for an example, like in Nightfall, the wounds just are basically mucking up your deck. They're just garbage cards that are just going to kind of just be floating around in your deck. You're going to be drawing wound cards out when you need other cards. I will point out one of the aspects of Shadowrift that's a little different than most deck builders. You really don't trim your deck. You're really not. You're not going to be dumping off your early cards, really. Plus wounds, in a lot of deck building games, whether you can receive wounds or you receive these bloat cards that end up in your deck that are very difficult to get rid of. The wounds aren't too bad. The wounds aren't too bad getting rid of the wound cards from your deck. So we've got the seal. So another way that you can win the game is if you seal all the Shadowrifts, which I've got some extras sitting out here. And we'll just take a look at these closer, don't worry. So there is 1 Shadowrift card for each player, and they're placed into the monster deck. And the way you set it up is you split the monster deck in half, shuffle one of the Shadowrift cards into, for an example, like with the 2-player, right? You're going to shuffle in one of the Shadowrift cards into the first half of the deck. You're going to take the other half of the deck, shuffle up one of the Shadowrift cards, and you're going to put both of those together. So that way, you're not going to end up running into, both of the Shadowrifts really early, which would be very difficult to do, or that you're going to have to play until you get to like the last 3 cards in the monster deck before you see a Shadowrift that you can close. The seal spell will help you close those Shadowrifts. All right, continuing moving around here. We also have 8 hero cards. And I do apologize, getting a little bit of glare here, and that's even with the lighting kind of adjusted. So, sorry about that. So we've got 8 hero cards, and we've got all these randomizers. Got a bunch of different randomizer cards. These are for the hero cards. And we also have randomizer cards for the monster factions. So you have 8 of these hero cards. Now, depending on what faction you want to play against, there are recommended setups, right? So here, I've got the dragons. Tells us, okay, the faction is fire dragons. Skills are frenzy and holy aura. So we got holy aura and frenzy there. We've got attacks, spear volley, right there. Whoops. Wild charge, and Thieving Strike. We got actions, heal, right over here. And then loot, we've got Shining Blade and Armor of Mist. So, if we look towards the back of the book, it's going to show you, okay, these are the other monster factions. This is what are recommended that you use as far as the hero cards. So we've got Drow. Like I said, we got it's Necromancers, plural. We've got the Glacian, which are like ice monsters. Stormlords, the fire dragons, and then we also have demons. One thing that's kind of interesting too is if you're using the demons, remember I mentioned we've got like the bad folk up in the traveler deck. Kind of interesting thing here is we actually replace some of them with cultists. So, like I said, there's little wrinkles to every different monster faction that you utilize. Now, of course, if you want, you can make everything completely random, and you can actually, take a monster faction at random. You can take 8 hero cards completely at random as well. So unlike a game, say like Thunderstone Quest, you're not looking at recruiting heroes. You are the hero. So using these 8 hero cards is how you kind of customize your hero. So against the dragons, it's more along the lines of you're more kind of like fighters. You're not big magic users. Now, granted, we have healing as a spell. We have Holy Aura as a spell. So maybe you're kind of looking at your characters more like fighters, clerics. I know I'm going like old school D&D, but that's kind of how you look at it. Just like against other monsters, you might have more spells out there than attacks. So really the defenders of the town are more like magic users and stuff. So what you're doing with these is you're just kind of customizing the sort of hero you've got. And when you're attacking monsters, you've got magic, you have melee attacks, and you also have ranged attacks. Now, you also have defensive cards as well. All right, so we've got the 8 here. So these are cards that are available to purchase. You can always purchase Strike. You can always purchase Might. Now, Heroism's interesting. You don't get Heroism cards unless you kill a monster or if you close a Shadowrift. Because the Heroism cards are actually pretty cool, pretty powerful cards. The Might cards are interesting too, because when you play the Might card, unless you do a specific thing with the Might card, it actually goes back onto the stack here. So that is one thing that some folks are probably going to be a little scratching their heads with. It is possible for you to buy cards that are one and done that you actually discard or put back onto the board. Okay, so moving right along, then we've got the town deck. So this is all the villagers here. And you can tell the difference between a villager and a traveler because the travelers will actually say traveler on them. So every turn we've got 5 new cards down here in the town, and then we got the town discard. And then we've got coins as well. You can purchase coins and put them directly into play. So here's another aspect of the game that is probably going to throw some folks off. You draw your 5 cards. That's pretty standard for deck building games, right? Drawing your 5 cards, do what you can with your 5 cards. Maybe you got some cards that are going to allow you to draw more cards. Very, very nice. But with Shadowrift, it's cooperative and the heroes act, right? Number 7, the heroes act. The heroes act together. So there is no, I take my turn, you take your turn, Joe Bob takes their turn, Kelly over here just taking her turn. It's use your cards as you can. I think it's pretty cool because, Brett, like for an example, like I had mentioned Legendary Aliens, where it is cooperative. Everybody's working together to kill the aliens, right? But you still have where it's like, okay, I have my turn. I do my stuff. I can kind of help another player by playing a card, but I'm still doing my turn, and then it moves on to the next person's turn, and it just kind of rotates through that. In Shadowrift, when it's the hero's turn, they can act in concert. So I could say, okay, well, I'm going to use my my prestige to purchase whatever. Somebody else has an attack card. They say, okay, well, I'm attacking this monster here. And I say, well, I got an attack card too. So I'm going to attack that monster. So you can kind of interrupt each other's turns to do stuff. You can also discuss, hey, this is what I've got in my hand. What should we do? What do you think, gang? Another thing also, there are solitaire rules for Shadowrift. So that's very nice. Nicely done as well. Okay, so we've gone around, taking a look at everything. Now, no joke, the camera is so high up, I actually have to kind of scoot up out of the chair to zoom in. And this camera has a weird zoom. It'll kind of like race on in. No, it didn't do that. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to move that out of the way. So now that we've kind of zoomed in and people can actually read what these cards say, I'm going to give you an idea of what we're looking at with the starting 10 cards. So you're going to have 7 prowess cards. Wow. Oh, this was the second player that I really didn't shuffle up. Okay, so we've got 7 prowess cards. And you're going to notice on these cards here, it's going to show you what is the cost to buy this card, right? So as an example, now, okay, the Bard is expensive because the Bard is a traveler card. So it costs 3 coins, 4 prestige to take the traveler and to bring the traveler into the town, to put it into the town discard pile. But for an example, the Might card costs you 2 prestige. Prowess, I should say. Why did I say prestige? 2 prowess to purchase. Now, there are 3 kinds of resources in Shadowrift. We've got, and it's right here on the arrows and coin. We've got coin, we've got prowess, we've got magic. It will show you, as an example, that is a magic symbol. Up here, this is an epic move symbol, which means you can only do one of these per turn. So when you have the hero's act, you can only play one of these. So even if you have 4 of these in your hand, 4 of these icons in your hand, you're only going to be able to play one of these. It's important to point out that you don't want to, for an example, like Thieving Strike here, you're not going to want to have a ton of these in your deck because you don't want a bunch of these coming out in your hand in one turn, because you can only perform one of these actions on a turn normally. So we've got, for an example here, the Might card would cost you 2 prowess to purchase, the Strike would cost you 3, the Seal costs you 4, and we've got various other, okay, for an example, here, show you. The Holy Aura. So the way this breaks down is, that's telling you, okay, so it costs you 3 prowess to buy. It's telling us this is a skill. It says it's a spell, and then we also see you've got this magic symbol right here. You will have some cards that'll say that, oh, if you discard a magic, you get to do something extra. That's why we've got these symbols. So here it says, once per round, you may prevent a hero from gaining a wound. Keep in mind, it's a hero. That means any of the players, not just you, any of the players. It says if you do, draw a card. You can pay 1 prowess to keep this card in play during your cleanup. Because normally in cleanup, you're going to take all your cards, like you normally do in a deck builder. You're going to put them in your discard. So Holy Aura allows you, if you still have 1 prowess left, you can actually keep this in play. Just as an example, see, we've got Armor of Mist. Whenever you gain a wound, draw a card. This costs you 3 coins to buy, and this loot remains in play during cleanup. So you have the Armor of Mist. The Armor of Mist, once you play it, it's loot, so it stays in front of you. Same thing with the Shining Blade. So you can play an extra attack card, epic attack card, each round. Then you can discard this loot from play when attacking to deal +2 damage, right? So remember, you're just discarding it. You're not burning the card. You're not getting rid of the card. So once again, this is an item which is loot. Thieving Strike. So it costs you 4 to buy. Says it's an attack. Now remember, it's an epic attack. So playing that gives you 1 melee damage. If you're not the first hero to attack this monster this round, gain a coin instead of a wound. That's the Thieving Strike. We got the Wild Charge. 2 melee damage, you gain an extra wound. So, pay 2 prowess to add 1 damage, spend 1. This attack kills the monster, do not gain an extra wound. Then we got Spear Volley. 1 range damage, +1 damage if another hero is dealt range damage this round. Spend 1 to draw a card. Spend 1 prowess to draw a card. So, as an example, say you're playing a 4-player game. Every one of the players has Spear Volley in their hand that turn. You're going to start racking up damage on monsters because it basically says +1 damage if another hero has caused any ranged damage. Got Frenzy, which is a skill. Says once per round, you may discard a wound when attacking in melee. If you do, you gain no wound for that battle and deal +1 damage. We've got Heal. You can heal an affliction from any discard pile. And if you discard 1 magic card, one card that's got a magic symbol, 1 hero of your choice draws 2 cards. You may play an extra epic attack card, or epic, epic action. That's how I kind of look at it, an epic action. Now, I do want to mention that against the dragons, there are these burn cards. So on the board, you'll have a monster special area. So you may have something. This is where a lot of times you get kind of that like extra twist to the monster. So for an example, we've got burn for the dragons, and what you do is you might have a card that'll tell you, okay, take the burn card. So you actually take this card and it goes into your deck, into your discards. Just like deck building games, the vast majority of deck building games, when you acquire a card, it goes into your discard. It does not go into your hand or into the remaining cards that you've got available. So the burns can be pretty nasty with these dragons. So let's take a closer look at the monster that I've got face up. You're always going to have a face up monster, because what'll happen is if you've got enough monster power points to bring the next monster out, you will during that round. So it can get to the point where the monster power is really boosted up, and all of a sudden you've got like 2 monsters, bang, coming right out. Right, so we see here, so the 5 indicates that that's how much monster power is needed to bring the lava sprite out. It's got a health of 6. So it says whenever a hero plays a spell, that hero gains a burn. Now you kind of understand why they've got it set up with not too many spells. Now this is if the monster's in play. The monster just sitting out on the deck, face up, does not count because the monster has not entered play yet. So first off, each hero discards a spell or gains a burn. This is during the monster act. Okay, so that's the first thing that you're going to do. Kill A hero, or I shouldn't say hero, a villager that's got a little book icon. See, the villagers all have little icons on them. Okay, so if can't do that, then it's going to kill somebody who's got a little crown, kill the most damaged monster completely. So it kind of goes in order. It's not going to do all three of these things. And that would totally suck. You'd be like, oh my gosh. It's going to go down the list. What can it do? So can it do one? Yeah. So if it does one, bang, then it does one. If it can't do one, then it's going to go boom to two. If it can't go to two, it's going to go to three. Some have multiple effects. Some don't have tons. Also want to point out, in case I forgot, we get the coins. You can buy the coins for 2 prowess. The coins are kind of a group currency. So you can buy coins. Anybody can use the coins. Remember, this is very cooperative. So it's not where it's like, oh well, you know, like Thunderstone Quest, right? So you're cooperating to kill the monsters. You're not screwing with the other players, really. Sometimes it can, but I mean that's not really what you're trying to do. But it's kind of like, oh well, you know, because I got so many victory points, I'm the greatest hero. No, not in Shadowrift. Everybody's working together. So if I've got a coin and you've got a coin and Joe Bob's got a coin, well, when it comes to Kelly's turn, if there's something that Kelly could use 3 coins to buy, she can do it. So a lot of times when you've got leftover prowess, if you've got a couple extra prowess, you want to buy a coin. Now, granted, there aren't tons of them. So once these coins are gone, they are gone until you spend them, and they will be available once again to purchase. Okay, so some other stuff to take a look at. Kind of give you an idea. These are the randomizer cards. So we've got a lot of we've got different spells. We've got different skills. Bamboozle, Frenzy, Brawler, Mother Spell, Wall of Snow, Elixir of Life, Armor of Mist, Shining Blade, Lightning Daggers, Staff of Icy Blows, Beaming Strike. So those are the hero cards. So there are quite a few different hero cards to choose from. And then we've got the randomizer if you want to randomize the monsters, the monster factions. So we got the Necromancers. We've got the Drow. We've got the Demons. We've got the Storm Lords. The Glaciers. Like I said, those are like ice creatures. And then we've got the Fire Dragons. Like the artwork. Artwork is very, very nice on these cards. Especially the village cards, the villager cards. Speaking of the villagers, kind of give you an idea here. So we got the farmer. So we see the farmer here. The farmer has this little icon there. So that's showing us that that is, you'll see the different monsters. Like I showed the one where it's like, oh, the little book, or if it's a crown. It's kind of like to target if the monsters are trying to specifically kill a unique kind of villager. Then it says aid, tells us what we can do as far as if we use that character to aid us. So one of the aspects of the game that's pretty cool is the players can utilize these different villagers to help them out. And it's kind of like a free action, right? You can only use one of the villagers during your turn. So if you're playing 6 players, then one of the players is not going to get to use one of the villagers, which is kind of a bummer. I got to be honest, though. Now, I didn't play with 6 players, but 6 players could kind of drag a little bit. I would think we've played this with, I played it by myself, which I thought was pretty cool. I played it just Cameron and I, and then we played with 4 players. So it was Cameron, my nephew Cameron. When I normally say Cameron, it's my nephew Cameron. But he's got another friend named Cameron. So he was over as well. And then my nephew's new girlfriend. So she was playing in the 4-player game. So for an example, if we have the merchant, he use the merchant for aid, you gain a coin. Some of them are pretty interesting. Like, so we got the child, right? So the little child. So it says reaction. If this is out, if this is in the town, out in the town square, ignore any annihilation actions while the child is in play. So if a monster had an annihilation and they try to use it and the child is out there, it stops it. It's like, I don't know why. So these are going to change every turn. So these villagers will change every turn. Here's the Shadowrift card. So it shows you like the Shadowrift has 0 power. So if you reveal a Shadowrift and you don't have any monster power available to spend, it's still going to come out. This is the only time you're going to be able to knock out the Shadow Rifts, is when they are out in play. You cannot do that. You can't knock them out of play unless they're out here on the board. I'm going to zoom back out a little bit. Well, actually, you know what? Before I do that, I'll show you what we've got in our hand. So we got we got 7 prowess cards to start our deck. We've got the Explore, so it allows us to look at the top card of the Traveler deck, and I can put it on the bottom of the deck. I can spend a coin to put the top card of the Monster deck on the bottom. So I have 2 options if I play this Explorer card. And it'll show if it's got a little sword down at the bottom, that's one of the starting cards. So a lot of times, you're going to use Explore to try to keep the less savory characters who are travelers out of the town. So then we got Strike, does 1 melee damage. If you spend 2 prowess, it will make this a ranged attack. So the monsters can't give you a wound in a ranged attack. So normally they'll cost 3 to purchase because you can buy these Strike cards. So you got 2 of those, and then you've got 7 prowess cards, which are all worth 1 prowess. Kind of standard breakdown of your starting deck. With a lot of deck building games, you usually have 10 cards. 7 of them are kind of like meh. And then you've got 3 that are actually, oh, hey, not too shabby. I think the one game off the top of my head that doesn't is Hero Realms, which we like. That's a fun deck builder to jump right into. Okay, so that's our 10 card deck. All right, so we also have divider cards throughout. I pulled the one for the fire dragons, so you put all your monster faction cards with this in the box. I got a nice sized box, got a lot of dividers and your randomizers, so nice way to be able to sort stuff. There's plenty of room for more cards, more expansions as well. As far as I understand this new edition, I never played the first edition. I'll be the first one to point that out. I know nothing about the first edition. I believe this second edition, the only thing that's really changed is that the expansions that were available previously are all included in the box. Now, there was a recent Kickstarter for a new expansion for Shadowrift, and it did fun, so pretty cool. So anyway, so we get a little bit of flavor text, and then it tells you, okay, so what are you going to do? So fire dragons cause burns. You'll need all the healing hands you can spare. Separate the burn cards, place them face up in the special monster card space beneath the monster power area. When a monster card instructs you to take a burn, place a burn card in your discard pile. So it tells you right there what's going on when you set it up. And then, of course, in the rule book itself, it's going to tell you how you're going to select your hero cards and pretty much it. So, like I said, once, if you want to, you can do everything completely random and make it a little tougher on you if you'd like. That's completely up to you. All right, so let's zoom back out. Zoom back out here. Okay, let me grab a sip here. So to give you an idea when you're playing. So the game's going to start off, everybody's going to draw their 5 cards. Of course, this is a deck building game. I recommend you pick up card sleeves. You are going to want card sleeves. Okay, so this is player one's hand of cards. Let's do this. Pop that up here. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's player two's. Okay, so we've drawn our cards. So basically, player two just has 5 prowess. Player one has explore and 4 prowess. So next, we're going to refresh the town. So what we would do here normally is we would actually take the, well, might as well show you. So I'm going to take all the villager cards from down here, and they go into the town discard. Then I would take the new 5 villagers, and a bunch of guards. Yeah, all guards. Yep. Oh, and the smith. Okay, so we would have our new town out. So we're gonna that's our refreshing the town. Then we refresh travelers. So if we didn't spend the dough to get these visitors to stay in town, we're going to take them and put them on the bottom of the deck. And then we get a witch who's actually good. And we get, a heretic who's a traveler. So what happens here is they automatically go into the town discard. We're not recruiting this heretic into our town. He's just taking up residence. So unfortunately, we now have this bum in our town. So that's refreshing the town, refreshing the travelers. Monsters act. We don't have any monsters doing anything. Monsters gain power. It's going to be based on how many players you have. So it's going to go up to there with a 2-player game. So the thing is, the monsters gaining power. Monsters can gain power by not only the number of players, but how many monsters are in play, how many monsters you've got that have left the town. There's a variety of different ways that this track is going to gain a bunch of monster power points. So that is not something that you're going to like, because it's going to get to the point where you're going to have a lot of monsters coming out, and you really got to start focusing on killing them and getting the walls. Here are the walls. Rats. I forgot to show off the wall cards. So there are 2 of each kind, and you can buy these in any order you want. There's a moat, there's a shrine, there's a magic barrier, and there's a stone wall. So you can look through this deck at any time to purchase the walls. And these actually go into your town deck. When you've built them all, when this is empty, then you win. What can happen, though, monsters can destroy the walls. So if they do happen to destroy a wall, that wall is going to go back into the wall deck here for you to purchase. So it can be kind of tough winning the game by building the walls. But I have to admit, it's kind of cool that you've got different ways that you can win the game, as opposed to, oh, well, you got to do this in order to win. Okay, so we do that, add monsters. Well, we can't add a monster. We don't have 5 power yet to bring him out. Heroes act. So the heroes would act. This is player 1 up here. So player 1 says, okay, I've got the explorer. I'm going to take a look at the traveler deck. I'm going to play that. It's a baker. Okay, so I have an option. I could put this on the bottom of the deck, but I won't. I'm going to put that back there. So I've played the explorer card. Now I've got 4 prowess left. So, what should I do? Well, you know what? I think I will spend my 4 prowess And I'm going to buy this Wild Charge. Okay, so all those would go into the discard pile. Boom. Get these out of the way. Okay, then we've got the second player. They have 5 prowess cards. So they say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take 2 of these prowess cards. I'm going to buy a coin. And I'm going to take these other 3 prowess. And I'm going to buy strike. Boom, I'm done. Those go into the discard. Now we got, might as well just put the coin right here. Kind of like as a community treasury, right? Then, okay, be the next turn. So we really have no cleanup because we don't really have anything going on. So then the players would draw their 5 cards. That'd be player 1s. There's player 2s. Then we're going to say, okay, so we're refreshing the town. So to refresh the town, we got to take the town discard, shuffle it back up. These all go to the discard. And then the farmer. Oh, there's the heretic. Figure they were coming out. The mayor, stonemason, and the child once again. Okay. So we go, okay, so we refresh the town. We're going to refresh the travelers. The witch is going to go onto the bottom because we didn't add her to the mix. So we've got a baker and we've got a sage. Okay, so we've refreshed that. Now the Monsters Act, well, don't have any monsters out there to do anything. Monsters gain power. All right, so we're going to go up to... So now we can add monsters. So we're going to get the monster star here. It's going to cost 3. I'm sorry, it's going to cost 5. Duh, leave 3. And then we're going to flip the new one over, right? Uh-oh. Boom. Remember? I mentioned you always flip over the next monster card because you may not have like a cost. Like for an example, the Shadowrift doesn't have a cost. So Rain of Fire, power, whenever a hero plays a seal or buys a villager or builds a wall, that hero gains a burn. So what we also start to do now, it's not gonna happen now because we're adding monsters. But if these are still out there on the next turn, if you notice, we see these little icons here on the side, right? We got 2 little like fireballs. What we'll end up doing is that will actually add to the monster power. So once again, as I mentioned, there's different things that you need to take a look at to see how much monster power you're going to add. So we're going to add an additional 3 monster power on the next turn if we don't get rid of that. Now the Rain of Fire is going to just stay there and it's going to move along because it does not have a health for us to attack it. Okay, so we've done that. We've added the monsters. Now the Heroes Act. Now we actually have some people in town that we can could actually help us out. So let's see. Player 1 has strike and prowess and another strike. So they're going to have 2 melee. So 2 attacks, 2 points of damage, I should say, on their strike. Then they also have 3 points of prowess. So what they can do is they can play the 2 strike cards and pay 2. Oh, hang on. Let's see what this other player's got. Prowess, explore, strike, prowess, strike. Nothing all that great. Okay, so early on, it's early on in the game. It's a little difficult for the players to really kind of start combining what they're doing. But as the game progresses and as you get more of these cards in that added into your deck, then you're looking at, okay, then you're like, oh, hey, what do you got? Oh, you got, all right, you got the spear volley. All right, well, I'm going to use this. I'm going to do a ranged attack. You play your spear volley, blah, blah, blah. So what we'll do here is we're going to do the strike. We're going to play the 2 strikes. That's 2 damage. They're going to spend 2 prowess to make the attack ranged. They've got 1 prowess left. They're going to use the farmer, which adds 1 more prowess to make both attacks ranged, so that way they don't have to take a wound, and they would give a lava sprite 2 points of damage. All right, so then we've got our other player here. Says, okay, so what do I got here? I got 2 strike. Nope. Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, I'm grabbing the discard pile. Should have flipped that up. So the second player had Explorer. It's got strike, strike, and 2 prowess. So they're going to say, all right, I'm going to look at the Traveler deck. I'm going to look at the top card. I'm going to play that. Ooh, it's a Backstabber. Boo. All right, that's going on the bottom of the deck. I don't want that guy in my town. He's another bad guy. So, played the Explorer. Got 2 strike, got 2 prowess. There's really nothing out here in the village that's going to help them out. So, and the Heretic, if you play a spell, you take a wound, which is also, if you buy a villager or build a wall, you gain a burn. Well, we don't have to worry about that. So we're going to do the strike. We're going to spend the 2 prowess to make 1 of them a ranged attack. They would take a wound because only 1 of the attacks was ranged. So now they have a wound card in their deck, but this lava sprite's going to have 2 more points of damage. And then we would go to cleanup. So we got the cleanup here. Going to take these. I'm going to take these. Whoops. Funny thing is, personally, I don't think there's any real reason to have to put that on top of there. It's like, okay, you can remember how heroism works. Okay, so these are the travelers that go on the bottom here. All right? So that's kind of your cleanup. We know this card's going to come out here, so might as well shuffle up our village. Okay, so let's shuffle up our decks here for the players real quick. Then we're going to draw cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Flip that over for player 1. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, there's the wound, damn you. You suck. Well, it looks like this player is going to spend most of their time just spending these cards to get rid of that wound, because really isn't. They got an Explorer and the prowess. All right, so then we would go to refresh the town, so we already know that we had that card that's going to come out. The child's out again. The mayor's out again. Oh, there's that damn heretic again. And stonemason. We're going to refresh our villagers. Oh, there's a robber. So the robber's going into our town. And we have the explorer. So those are our travelers. Now the monsters would act. So the lava sprite's out here. So the lava sprite's going to say each hero discards a spell or gains a burn. Well, the heroes don't have any spells yet. So each of the heroes is going to get a burn added to their discards. Monsters gain power. So it would be... So, got a power of 10. Oh, we got to flip that over. Okay. Got the Horde Squatter, which is a dragon, comes out. Now we've got a new monster here. So that's our adding our power. Then the heroes would act. And then the heroes would go about trying to buy their cards and that so they can continue fighting the monsters. At some point in time, you're going to want to start buying the seal cards. Now, one thing to point out, there aren't tons of these cards, right? So even if, let's say you're playing with 6 players, you still only have 8 of each of the hero cards. That is not going to change. You're going to have 8 of these cards. So that's one of the reasons why I think, in my opinion, I think Shadowrift plays best with about 4 players. Now, I'm not dissuading somebody from going to 6 players with this game. I'm just saying I think it plays probably plays a little tighter. Now, remember, I mentioned I didn't play this with 6 players. I think it plays tighter with 4 players. I enjoyed it as 2 players. It's cool playing solitaire too. As a solitaire game, there are some little changes, not huge, but little changes to it to give you a fighting chance. So you'll continue building your decks, playing your cards, getting your burns here, which are not cool with the dragons. Although thankfully the dragons aren't like insanely tough as a faction. They're one of the easier factions to kill the monsters from. You'll continue going through your village, and once again, you're trying your best to close the 2 shadow rifts or get the 8 wall cards in order to win the game. All right, so that is pretty much how you play Shadowrift. Kind of give you an idea. I'm not going to play a whole game of it because this game does take a while to play, and of course, with more players, it takes a little bit longer to play. That's why the playtime is around 45 minutes, which is for a solitaire game. And I got to be honest, when I played solitaire, I didn't knock it off in 45 minutes. It was about an hour, and I went 1-1. Well, that's what happens. But yes, I can easily see this takes 2 hours or more as people are first starting to learn the game. If you have, like, say, 5 or 6 players, 2 hours is about right for about a 4-player game. That's what it ran when we played with 4. It was about 2 hours. But Cameron, my nephew, and I understood how to play the game, so we were able to kind of ease everybody in really quick, as opposed to, hey, everybody, we're sitting down learning the rules all for the first time. So what do I think of Shadowrift, the 2nd edition? There's a lot to like. I like the fact that we've got a bunch of different monster factions that you can battle, and each one has a different approach. They each have a different kind of twist to how they do things. Some of them just have special powers. Like, for an example, the necromancers have they turn corpses into zombies. The demons have these totems. We saw the dragons have the burn. So they all kind of operate a little bit differently. Another aspect of the game I like is that, unlike, say, Thunderstone or Thunderstone Quest nowadays, you're not recruiting heroes. You are the hero. You're buying the hero cards to customize what sort of hero you are. So you can kind of discuss with the other players as you're going along, saying, hey, you know what? I like that thieving strike. I want to kind of be more like a little bit of like a rogue kind of character. And somebody might be like, hey, you know what? Let me focus on getting the healing spells because I can be kind of the cleric, kind of the healer. I like that aspect as well. I like the villagers. I think that's kind of cool how each of the players get an opportunity to utilize one of the villagers to take advantage of their special ability. The travelers out there tend to be more powerful than the regular villagers. So you purchase them to actually, when they're visiting, to actually join the town, to move into town. I like that aspect as well. I like how you got these like negative characters going into town too. I actually dig the fact where it's like, okay, so if you ever refresh the town and you don't have any villagers, it's just baddies and corpses, game's over, right? Because the monsters were able to defeat, it wasn't just they were looking to tear down the walls of the town. they were actually there looking to eat the villagers, right? They were trying to kill the villagers. If you don't have any villagers left, what's the point? You're not defending anything. What? You're going to defend the property? No. So hang on one sec. So I like all of that. Now, I do want to point out that there was mention as far as the hero cards, because you'll have the 8 hero cards that you can choose from. Now, as far as like legendary aliens, is just what I'm floating out there, right? Because there's some similarities in little ways between, in my opinion, Shadowrift and legendary aliens. One of the aspects of that game is there were all different cards that you could purchase, right? So you'd have like a row of cards. They would all come out. You could buy different cards and you replace those cards. So you tended to have far more than 8 kinds of cards that were available as far as like special cards, like the hero cards. So I didn't have a problem with this, but I do want to mention one of the gang said, yeah, hey, you know, I really liked aliens better because we always had all the different stuff that was popping up, as opposed to, well, you've only got these 8 hero cards and then the cards that are available every game for you to be able to build and put into your deck. Another aspect was, you know, you still got like your starting cards. You really don't trim your deck, so it's a lean, mean fighting machine. You're just kind of adding to the deck. Once again, I didn't have really an issue with that, but there was a comment saying, hey, you know, because I tell the kids all the time, it's like, you know what? You got to understand, this is a deck building game. You got to trim your deck when we're playing other deck building games. And of course, so I've kind of like programmed them to be like always trying to like, okay, what do I call out of the deck now? You don't really do that in this game. So other aspect that some people may not be too keen on, and I got to be honest, I think the MSRP of $75 is a little high. It's a touch high, in my opinion, for what you get. Now, there's a lot of gameplay packed in this. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of replayability packed in this as well. And I like the fact that there's different ways to win the game. The monster factions fight differently. Having the various different hero cards kind of changes how you approach fighting those monster factions. There, like I said, there's a lot of gameplay packed into this. The cardstock's good. I wouldn't say it's like top of the line, but pretty good. Once again, it's a deck builder, so you're going to need to go out and get yourself some card sleeves anyway, because you're going to play it a lot. But yeah, as far as the $75 price tag, it just seems a little high. If it was like 60 to 65, I'd be like, oh yeah, honestly, this is, for people who like deck building games and fantasy games, kind of a must-have. At $75, I still really like it, but I can't necessarily say that it's a must-have. Now, that being said, I'm talking MSRP, folks. You know, there are plenty of places you can go that you're not paying MSRP on a game. So, keep that in mind. Anyway, on a scale of 1 to 10, I most definitely give Shadowrift 2nd Edition an 8.6. I really like it. Like I said, I just have minor quibbles, and I think the MSRP is a little high. That, like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to pay $75 to pick it up. I look forward to maybe getting a chance to check out the expansion that kickstarted. I think it ended last month. I'm almost positive. I think it was in December. So that's, of course, you know, months and months away. Wow, almost sneezed there. Hang on. Yikes. All right. So once again, do want to point out, please support Lil Bub's Big Fun over at the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Because I'm not sitting here telling you to go to my Patreon or anything like that. I am not here to try to convince you to send me money. So isn't that different, right? Different than most people doing this nowadays. Anyway, as I always like to say, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, please go visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. Well, by now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. So I will be back on Monday. As I mentioned before, on Monday I will be reviewing Paper Tales. Looks like I'm gonna have a streak of reviews going, right? This will be the third in a row. So I will be reviewing Paper Tales on Monday from Stronghold Games. So until then, have a safe weekend. It's cold here. We're getting snow. So if you've got lousy weather where you're at, have a very safe weekend. Be careful while you're out there. I will be back on Monday. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.